Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
It's not been the best week for the Leave campaign. The bookies have cut the chance of a Leave win to 20% or thereabouts. And it's just seemed hard for Leave to break the endless news trail of establishment authorities warning us to stay in the EU to avoid Armageddon. Well, as the going gets tough, the internal campaign arguments get going. And you might have heard here last night that there is to be a change of tack in the campaign, with more emphasis to be placed on the immigration issue than hitherto. Not everybody, though, is happy with that idea. The issue may well come into sharp focus tomorrow when the latest quarterly migration statistics are published. Well, our political editor, Nick Watt, is with me. Nick, I mean, there has been some internal discussion on this. I mean, how do insiders feel the Leave campaign is going?
Well, it's the weekly campaign meeting tomorrow of the Vote Leave campaign, and there may be the odd pain face. You were talking about the unease that we picked up last night about the focus on immigration, and those tensions sort of bubbled to the surface again today when the Institute for Fiscal Studies, a body you're familiar with, raised questions about the impact of Brexit on the UK economy, and Vote Leave started to saying we shouldn't take this organisation seriously. They are bankrolled by the EU, and there was a lot of unease in the campaign about that particularly strong message. But as you were saying, immigration, ONS figures out tomorrow, should be a big day for the Leave campaign. But I've been speaking to a British-born Pakistani MP who signed up for Vote Leave last year because he wanted to make the positive case for immigration. He's been explaining to me why he decided to resign from that campaign, and he does not pull his punches.
The point that came where I decided that I shouldn't be part of this in any way at all, positively, was when the Commission was considering about which would be the lead campaign, and everybody literally on the Leave campaign were trying to hit the racist issues. Vote Leave decided they were going to concentrate on immigration on a very, very negative basis, and trying to push and frighten people away on the issue of migration. And that's why I think most of the BME community in the UK is actually now pushing very much towards in Europe.
And do you believe the tactics by Vote Leave on immigration have been divisive?
I think the Leave campaign have failed to put an economic case forward. They haven't put forward any credible academic studies on the issue of how the economic situation would be better off, and that has really hindered them. Rather than just concentrating on race, they should have concentrated on the economic message, how positive it would have been to move forward, and I think a lot of people would have been excited by that.
And can I just ask you, what do you think black and minority ethnic voters thought of that Vote Leave poster, advert, which I think showed millions of Turkish citizens walking through a passport, a UK passport, into the UK?
Totally horrified and appalled by it. This is, again, what makes people really frightened about their own status in this country. And that was really negative. That was just absolutely abysmal in terms of a national campaign going forward. These people were isolating them and making them feel like that queue that they showed with the Turkish, and that they're part of that, not part of the UK.
Boris Johnson has been criticised for casual racism after he highlighted what he described as the part Kenyan ancestry of Barack Obama. Do you think that was casual racism? I
think Boris's exploration of Obama's heritage and pointing out where he came from is totally racist. And that, I think, Boris has a lot to apologise for in relation to making those sort of remarks and dividing our community.
Well, Nick there, Nick's still with me. I mean, Nick, what do Vote Leave, or what would Vote Leave say in response to that?
Yes, well, we've heard from Vote Leave. They've issued us a statement off the back of Khalid Mahmood's statement. And in that statement, Vote Leave have said to us, we've always said that we want a fairer immigration system, one which allows us to prioritise the brightest and best from around the world, not just people who happen to be born in other EU countries. And then the statement goes on to say we will continue to make the positive case for voting to leave the EU. Now, Vote Leave might like to point out that Khalid Mahmood did leave their campaign a few months ago. They might like also to point out that he was not exactly a major strategist, and he was not really somebody who attended their board meetings.
Where does the campaign go from here? What's happening tomorrow?
Well, there's a clear message from Vote Leave tonight, which is we are still in the game and we can win this. There was a YouGov poll in the Times today that showed that the two sides are tied on 41%, and there's a BMG poll out tonight that says that Leave are ahead by 1 point, 45 to 44%. But there's going to be an interesting speech tomorrow on the economy by David Davis, and critics of the Vote Leave leadership will say this is the sort of speech that you should be making, a clear speech about how you can get trade deals outside the European Union, but also the importance of focusing on the economy, because if you are talking about immigration, you are potentially harming your brand in the way that the Conservatives did 10 years ago when David Davis was Shadow Home Secretary and not happy with the leadership in that period.
Nick, thanks. And we'll be hearing a little later from Katie Razzle with minority voters in Birmingham. Anyway, back to the referendum now. We heard Nick earlier reporting on arguments on the Leave side about focusing on immigration, whether it's in danger of alienating ethnic minority voters. But does a Commonwealth heritage make you more inclined to stay in the EU or go? In the latest Referendum Road film, Katie Razzle has gone to the West Midlands to find out.
It's one of Britain's favourite dishes. Now curries got mixed up in the EU referendum debate. Restaurateurs complain that tightened immigration rules stop them bringing in skilled chefs and other staff from South Asia. The Leave campaign's promising a vote for Brexit would change that. They say without open borders to Europe, Britain could reforge its Commonwealth links. I was invited to sample the best Bangladesh could offer up by way of Sutton Coldfield. But do these curry house owners buy the Leave argument?
We've got 2 places for sale. Only reason is the staff shortage.
Do you blame the EU for that? Or do you blame the government for that?
Definitely EU, and the second is government.
I'd like to leave the EU.
Why?
And have it control migration, where it's not all open borders. We don't know where we stand at the moment. And if we, obviously with the Commonwealth, we'll get more migration from there as well.
If you leave, that's what you believe?
Yeah, I believe.
So you have picked up that message from the Leave campaign?
Yeah.
People who come from Europe, they're no good for us at all.
People who has no experience, people who even could not stand the smell of aromatic spices. How come you justify to recruit them, put them in a kitchen?
Can't you train them up?
They're not interested, full stop.
The Prime Minister appeared on the Birmingham-based Sikh channel recently, arguing the case for Remain. British and minority ethnic voters could decide this referendum. According to the British election study, unlike white voters who appear evenly split on the issue, 2/3 of the BAME community wants to stay in the EU.
It's going to be largely a Remain vote from many, many Sikhs across the country, and certainly from our programming, we've been out in the Sikh community and we are getting an overwhelming sense that people want to stay as a part of the EU, because this issue really is about segregation and separation, and the Sikh community strongly believe in one world and one society.
As well as live news and daily prayers, the Sikh channel is running a nightly referendum programme up to the vote.
I know Vote Leave has sort of raised the idea that if we stop being a member of the EU, we'll be able to close our borders, which means we'll be able to not take EU migrants necessarily and choose to bring people in from the Commonwealth instead. Is that resonating at all with you or anyone?
I don't think that resonates with the Sikh community very deeply, because it seems to be a bit of a shallow argument. We'll replace one type of migration with another type of immigrant or migration. That doesn't seem to be ring true. And if there's any Asian communities who are supporting that sort of stance, there may be some self-interest in that. They want to see people from their home countries be preferred.
Long before EU citizens set up home in the UK, immigrants from Britain's colonies were moving here, filling jobs created after the Second World War. When Britain last held a referendum on Europe, many argued we were turning our backs on the Commonwealth and those close historical ties. The Commonwealth diaspora helped make the West Midlands the UK's most ethnically diverse region outside London, and it's a key battleground for the ethnic minority vote in June.
I'm going to buy this soup for my son, please.
Mrs. Chugtai and her husband moved to Birmingham from Kashmir in the 60s. He worked in a factory, she started her own venture.
Was it you who set up the shop?
Yes.
You started the shop. You were the one with the vision.
She's a little camera shy. Her son now runs the place and he's a keen outer.
Most of the products that we sell now are manufactured outside of Europe. So if we were to be able to have trade agreements with countries like China, with India, with Commonwealth countries, we would be able to be much more competitive on these goods coming over from there. We're paying into a club which we personally don't see a benefit out of. What I would like is a fair immigration system.
Do you feel there's an irony in the fact that somebody like you, whose parents came over, you were immigrants originally, and now you're complaining about newer immigrants?
No, immigration is good for a country. If we had a system which was fair, which went all around the world, so we get the best people from around the world. So we're able to get computer programmers from India, we're able to get nurses, doctors from any of the Commonwealth countries where they speak our language, they have the same law systems and everything as us. It's much easier. So immigration isn't the problem, it's the levels of immigration.
Across town at Birmingham's Mac Gallery, an exhibition by Barbara Walker of the contribution made by black servicemen and women to Britain's armed forces. A visual reminder of our Commonwealth heritage. But amongst the people we gathered here, all of Caribbean descent, few saw those links as a decider in the referendum.
For me, our unity is strength. If UK leave Europe, UK will be on its own. So I think it will have a devastating effect on businesses. I know a lot of people are quite emotional about this and say, you know, we're losing our jobs to people from abroad. But
for you, it's an economic argument.
Yes, indeed.
When we have historically been the great nation that Britain managed to carve itself out to be, a big part of that was our link to the Commonwealth, there was our link to other parts of the world that actually helped us to gain our strength economically and politically. I think we're in a different world now. We don't know what's going to happen if we separate. And whilst some are arguing that yes, it could be better, that could is a really, really big could.
I feel that some of the discussions and the things that people want to change are about really taking away some of the support mechanisms for people right at the bottom of society. If it wasn't for Europe, we wouldn't have a number of protections around maternity leave and the 48-hour rule. And if we remove all the protections, then I fear that those sorts of communities will be exploited.
Older voters are more likely to be for Brexit, but that's not how Rakeem Omar sees it.
My grandfather, for example, he came over here in the 60s from Jamaica. So it took around 6 weeks to get here, and he really fought for a better life. And coming here, really working after World War II, the country was completely dismantled. And I think helping with others to put that together, working, in the NHS, building our country back again, to really build a stronger, European Union as well as obviously the UK. I think to leave that EU would really take away that legacy.
There was one leaver amongst them.
In the more recent past, Britain did things slightly differently, and therefore we've got a lot more Caribbeans, a lot more Africans, a lot more Indians in the UK by ratio compared with the other European countries, and I just feel that being out of the EU could potentially allow us to build those relationships again.
Will ethnic minority voters decide this referendum? Operation Black Vote said today a third of Britain's 4 million or so BAME voters aren't actually registered. Today, the organisation released this controversial poster in an attempt to encourage them to do so. Because minority voters' apparent support of Remain could prove decisive, but only if they turn out to vote.
Katie Razzle there.